Hello, everyone. Welcome to what I can now call Zilliqa Group TV. The purpose, I guess, of this AMA is really to go into more details around MetaMinds, and look to answer a lot of the questions that I guess have been posed by the community over the past few months. From my perspective, there has been a phenomenal amount of activity behind the scenes in respect of Zilliqa Group and the formation of that, and the ventures that encompass that, whether that's Rolling Thunders, whether that's MetaMinds, the loyalty layer that we've kind of building out, and clearly the infrastructure aspect that we're all really aware of. The Zilliqa Group itself is run by a CEO office. I myself, Matt Dyer, head up said office. Sandra, who's on this session, is part of that group, along with Richard Watch, the group CTO. And MetaMinds itself is a venture based around spatial web, which we're going to cover in a lot more detail during this session. And Max clearly is a big part of that venture, along with Sandra. And I thought at this point, Max, it's probably worth you introducing yourself to the audience on who you are, what your role is, and then Sandra, you can follow up after that. So over to you, Max.
Thank you, Matt, and thank you to the audience for tuning in on a Friday afternoon. It's not quite the graveyard shift yet. By way of introduction, my name is Max Kantelia, and for those of you that don't know the role that I've played in this, I'm actually a founder of Zilliqa, the layer 1 blockchain, which, as you probably know from some of the announcements we have made recently, has now been integrated as part of what we call the Zilliqa Group, which is a coming together of all the Web 3.0 tooling and the Metaverse tooling that anybody in the outside world would require to enter this internet of the future. As part of this, I work very closely with the Zilliqa Group board, with the CEO office, and especially closely with Sandra as part of the Metapolis founding team, the MetaMinds founding team. Pardon me.
Before we introduce Sandra, just quickly on that, Matt, you touched on the CEO office. Why is that significant, and why have we taken that approach around what we're doing with the group?
I think that having in previous ventures used a similar model, I think that the idea of a federated group of people that are running different parts of such a wide and diverse group, as our group has now become, it's no longer just a layer 1 blockchain. It also consists of service layers, but it also consists of ventures that we have invested in and now majority own. And I think for one single person to operate this is I think it's very challenging. And I think that federating this across a group of extremely competent people is the way to go. In fact, you may not know this, but LVMH, obviously run by Mr. Bernard Arnault, uses a very similar model whereby some 90 or 95 of the group companies are run by CEOs who all work together as LVMH at the group level. I think it's a much more efficient way of executing the sorts of strategies we're going to be talking about today.
Excellent, thanks for that. And Sandra, just before you explain to the audience what the spatial web is, what is the metaverse, how is it interlinked, I think it's worth you just kind of getting on stage and tell everyone who you are, what's your background, and then we can get into the discussion that people struggle to kind of understand.
All right, it's good to be back. So I'll dive right in. My name is Sandra. I think most of you probably know me when I was the head of the Metaverse and NFT department at Zilliqa, and then focus on the Metaverse. And now I'm the CEO of MetaMinds Group and the part of the Zilliqa Group as GCC lead, which means that I'm responsible for the the exposure and the expansion of Zilliqa within the GCC region.
Have we lost you there, Sandra? Can you hear Sandra, Max?
I can't actually. I'm
So
sure
I think what Sandra was saying there was just in terms of where she is based. She's obviously heading up the region in the GCC region, which is obviously significant for the group. And when she comes back, she can kind of articulate a little more around what that looks like. So I think just in terms of what's happening in the metaverse and everything else, from your perspective, Max, before Sandra comes back, we can talk about Metapolis and the questions people want to understand. Where do you see the market going, and why are you so excited about the market?
I think the reason why I'm very, very long on this space is because for the past 3 years, Matt, as you know, I've been spending a lot of my time speaking to luxury and lifestyle brands all over the world. And also, I've been looking very, very carefully at who the new target markets are for the luxury and lifestyle companies out there. And 20 years ago, exactly, in fact, 2003, luxury brands discovered that there was this geographical place called China, and they navigated their marketing and even product to that marketplace with amazing effect. Now, I believe that luxury brands are just beginning to understand that Web 3.0 and this thing that we call the spatial web, which Sandra will define shortly now that she's back, actually provides brands with access to new markets in what I call the Gen Z and millennial diaspora. And I think that we can get into this a little bit later on, but I have enough data points now to well understand that most brands are looking at how they target people within this particular segment of society, and it's already working to great effect. So I'm very excited, particularly from the perspective of this enormous industry, because I absolutely believe that all the established and emerging luxury brands are going to use this new omni-channel to access a completely new segment.
Excellent. So Sandra, before we are so rudely interrupted by the Wi-Fi in Dubai, spatial web, what is it? What is that in comparison to Metaverse? Please enlighten us.
I guess we've spoken quite a lot about the Metaverse, but the exciting thing about what we're doing right now is that not only are we looking at what the Metaverse is and what the Metaverse is going to become, we need to also be conscious of the fact that the Metaverse in itself did go through a lot of hype cycles the last year or so. And we saw a lot of people either wanting to tap into what it is or kind of retracting from what they thought the Metaverse was going to be or was going to become and how it benefited them. When we looked at the space and, we became pretty well known and everyone kind of saw us as the leaders when we decided to come into the space with our Metaverse as a service layer. But if you look at how the space is progressing and what people are going to need and want to achieve when it comes to that next layer of the 3D internet, what some people are calling it now, the space has matured significantly, which means that we also had to mature with it. And coming with that, maturity is essentially what does it mean for our business model and what does it mean to be a part of the Metaverse and what technology stack needs to adapt to it. So when you look at the spatial web, or when you look at what MetaMinds is becoming now or has become, MetaMinds in itself is still a Metaverse as a service layer, but we are now also a spatial web-focused company, meaning that we now look at all the technology that's part of the AR revolution, VR revolution, AI, loyalty, tokenization, NFTs, crypto. Pretty much the spatial web is the interconnectivity of all of these technologies coming together and how they work in a unified approach to add to the Metaverse. So in all honesty, our vision hasn't really changed from the Metaverse. It just means we've expanded because The natural evolution of keeping up with Gen Z and Gen Alpha is that this level is expected in terms of engagement, collaboration, incentivization. And we need to stop looking at this space like it's a little activation that happens and then flies off.
Excellent. So thanks very much for articulating that. I think just to get to the crux of it, obviously this session is really about understanding MetaMinds, but a question that's clearly being asked by the audience is Metapolis, what happened, how is it connected to MetaMinds? Can we just look to set the record straight and just give a bit more clarity to the audience around our perspective on this? Sandra, Max.
You want to go ahead, Max, and then I'll jump in?
So, well, let's just sort of remind ourselves here that, firstly, Metapolis was a brand name that Zilliqa created. It never has been an entity in itself. It was a brand name that we created to provide the first Metaverse as a service organization on the planet, actually, which we launched in around April of 2022. And when we launched Metapolis as a brand, it was really by design that Zilliqa did that. In providing the technology that would support the projects that Zilliqa was delivering into Metapolis, we partnered with a third party. And unfortunately, over time, it became clear that that third party could not provide the quality or the scalability of the tech stack that our customers actually needed. And therefore, as part of the restructuring of everything that I personally have been doing and Zilliqa has been doing into what we call Zilliqa Group today, we're really announcing MetaMinds as a brand new venture with a completely new and fresh tech and design stack and an entirely new business model. So to be completely clear with anybody that is interested or listening to us today, Metapolis is not a company, and we have no association with the previous third party and nor the Metapolis name. We are marching forwards as MetaMinds and as part of the Zilliqa Group.
Thank you for that. Sandra, anything to add to that?
No, I guess one of the best points to make for everyone to understand is that when the idea was formed and we came up with wanting to tap into the metaverse space, that kicked off from the NFT and the metaverse department. And we were pretty lucky enough to have such a welcoming team and support, for us to be able to do these. Now, obviously, with any business, what happened isn't a fairy tale. This happens across the board, these things do happen. The point that I do want to stress, just as Max said, is that, and I hope the community understands, that we are no longer affiliated or have anything to do with the Metapolis, brand or name, because I do see sometimes people tag and ask what's going on, what's happened. For us now, our mission and our vision, as I said, we started off with the Metaverse as a service layer, and now we've expanded on that offering through our maturity of understanding what the market and the clients want and need. So, as we said previously, we had differences of vision in who we decided to work with. The technology capabilities were also not up to what we expected and what we wanted to bring out to the market. So these decisions happen across the board constantly, and I think it's a proven thought of action leadership that we were able to move forward as quickly and to kind of realign, put all our ducks in a row and kick off with what we have now. So in full transparency, this is where we're at right now.
One other point I would just bold and underline, as per Sandra's comments here, is that the technology stack for everything that we will be moving forward and building with our customers is now completely in-house. We are not reliant on third parties to build these environments for us. We're doing everything in-house with some of the best, I was going to say some of the best minds, but I should say some of the MetaMinds out there in this space.
Yeah, everything's done in-house now with a brand new team, and everything's, like I said, in line and in order.
Excellent. So I think that's cleared that up, and we can answer any questions on the channel towards the end. So just kind of moving on or thinking forward, I think you've touched on the metaverse as a service layer. Can you just give a bit more clarity and understanding around what that is and what that means to brands in terms of engaging with MetaMinds?
I mean, look, when we kicked off the metaverse as a service layer, we were probably one of the, no, we were not probably, we were one of the first movers in the space who were applying that method and launching it within the space. So making it easy for brands to onboard into the metaverse, have a presence and interact with their communities. Now, if you're to ask me, or if I was to rephrase that question to how does MetaMinds now look at the metaverse as a service layer, I can easily say to you that from our learnings and from what has happened in the past year or so, 1.5 years, since we put out the mass, is that now we've evolved our offering to be more layered from a tech perspective into a multi-tenant approach. So when I say multi-tenant, previously the mass layer was, you work with us, you easily enter the space, and it's a white label solution given to you. Now what we're doing with MetaMinds is we're working on the OS of the metaverse layer and the spatial web layer, meaning we're building a full product line for the metaverse and the spatial web technology. And through that, it'll be infused and integrated with a multi-tenant approach. So the best way to explain this, when I say multi-tenant, think of it as you live in an apartment complex, right? You have your own apartment, but you share different amenities with other kind of neighbors that you have in the different stories, right? You have the same parking, you have the same pool, you have the same lobby, you have the same gym, but you have your own apartment. Think of MetaMinds now with our mass layer in the same approach. So we're building the operating system for the metaverse, and everyone will plug in to the mass layer through the multi-tenant approach. So this came with just really looking into the market and actually taking in the R&D that we needed to do for us to understand what people want and how we can better approach this. Okay. So I hope that answers it.
That answers it. I think just from my perspective as well, or maybe the audience's perspective as well, you talked about looking at the market. From a MetaMinds perspective, which verticals and which areas do you see the most opportunity for MetaMinds and ultimately for Zilliqa Group as well?
I guess I can kick this off and then Max can give his perspective. But, from us, because I'm seeing some of the questions on the side kind of popping in, we've done a lot of use cases and we've dabbled with a lot of industries. While all of this was happening, we did not stop working at all with clients or even looking at industries and the communication that was happening. I can understand how the community might feel like there was kind of like a curtain that went down and they didn't get a lot of insight into what was happening, but this is granted with the changes that were going on. Now, if I was to be completely transparent, in the background, we were still in communication with multiple industries across many verticals, and we were keeping that relationship going in terms of what does it mean to have a metaverse presence and what does the spatial web mean to them. Now, the first movers or the biggest movers in this space have really not changed much. If anything, they've kind of grown and matured just like we have. So we are still dabbing in discussions with esports teams. We have luxury, we have health and wellness, government entities. There's been a lot of movement around the entertainment areas and sectors. As always, we're not industry focused. We're kind of industry agnostic. But with our service offering now, it means that we're able to tailor a lot more into these different verticals. We have, I guess you could say now a bit of a consulting arm that gives solutions for people looking to enter the space through gamified and incentivization models through web.
Oh, I think we've lost Sandra there. So
HR.
Oh, sorry? Keep going. Sorry, we lost you for a second, Sandra. We lost your HR.
I am on like the best internet they have in Dubai, so I'm not sure how this is happening. I have no idea. So yeah, excuse me, I don't know where I got lost, but this I guess I kind of built the picture, and I'm happy to answer any questions at the end. But I know Matt probably wants to kind of give his opinion too.
Yeah, and I think just into Max really. Clearly, we go out and meet a lot of people, Max, and a lot of times we get asked from a Zilliqa Group perspective, what is the secret sauce? And a lot of the times when you look at other players in the blockchain space, access to brands is clearly something that's not straightforward if you're not used to working or moving in those sectors. So I think just from your perspective, it'd be maybe good just to paint the picture around kind of how do you see that and what is our opportunity based on this really strong USP that we have.
Yeah, Matt, I think that there isn't a single USP. I think that there are many, particularly now because we have formed this group structure. And going back to what I was saying about our very keen interest in luxury and lifestyle, whilst we are looking at clients in other segments, as Sandra has already mentioned, I do see this as becoming a predominant segment for us. And if I think about that sector and why they believe that we are well positioned to build exciting gateways into new markets for them, I think it's a bit like this. So I know the community is probably tired of my car analogies by now, but it's been a while since I gave one. I think that what a lot of people in the industry are doing today is they're building suspension systems, braking systems, chassis, engine parts, and that's great because we need all of that tooling. But over the last 8 years in my journey with Zilliqa, my vision hasn't actually changed, because what I've always wanted to do was to build the best possible chassis, suspension, engine that I could, but then overlay that with a beautiful body, a beautiful interior, an amazing steering wheel, incredible sound system, things that the consumer, unless you are a complete and utter car enthusiast, actually are the things that help us to make decisions on why we might buy a certain car, for example. And what we are working towards, and I think we've come a very long way, is through our Web 3.0 tooling and infrastructure, we can provide all of that infrastructure that creates best in class. But on top of that, now through, as we've been saying, through MetaMinds and the work it's doing and its products, that actually constitutes the body, the interior, the sound system, all the things that a customer or a consumer of a brand can feel and touch. And I think that really does position us quite uniquely in this market, in that we have both of those things now under one single group. And I think whether it be for developers or whether it be for users or whether it be for entrepreneurs who want to build a D app on our infrastructure, I think this is really a huge game changer for people that want to come into this space.
Excellent. Thanks for the clarity there. And I think just from our perspective on opportunities that we've worked on, being able to range up across loyalty into metaverse, into spatial web is really exciting. I think for brands who are looking for kind of a white label and somebody to take the complexity and the difficulty away is something that definitely helps in terms of our capability. I think there's quite a few questions. I'm conscious we've got about 7 minutes to wrap up, so it's probably worth us getting stuck into these head on, Sandra, in terms of the ones that I can see. There's some that you might want to bucket under the same kind of banner as well. There's questions being asked about when are we going to see MetaMinds have a Twitter handle? When are we going to see a roadmap in terms of what MetaMinds is? And I think just from your perspective, it's maybe just trying to, I guess, articulate exactly what it is and how we go to brands, and maybe how it's the brand who we work with defines that roadmap rather than yourself. So
I guess there's a couple of points I want to make here, because I'm also seeing a bit of the questions that are being made. To answer the first one, we're not going to be on Twitter at all. So if anyone wants to keep up with us, LinkedIn is the place to be, or our YouTube. Secondly, I think it's very important for people here to distinguish between what we are as a company and what we do in comparison to how other blockchain projects have kind of operated within the space. as a company, we're focused on delivering to our clients their white labeled solutions, while in parallel, we are building the product line and the operating system for the metaverse and the spatial web space, meaning that internally, we do have a roadmap, and we will be able to share this roadmap with the community as in what they can expect. But as you know, because we are going to be the ones leading within the space, we cannot go full out and share all the information that we might want to, because this is just how the space is and how it operates. So in terms of roadmap, internally, we have a pretty strict timeline for delivery, and we have a pretty strict roadmap for what we want. Now, if you visit our website, which by the way is still being updated, you realize that we do have products that are listed, and some of them are in testing phase, and we're asking people to show interest if they want to test, and some are still in the production with dates on when they want to be launched. Now, the way that we operate is when we have a client, dependent on whatever industry they're coming from, they would come through MetaMinds, and it would either be, for now, until the other OS has been launched, we white label solutions for these clients, meaning that we are not the ones that are responsible for when they go to market, and we are not the ones that handle when they officially start collaborating and connecting with their community. What we do is we work with them on their Web3 marketing, we work with them on their Web3 identity, we work with them on their metaverse presence, we work with them on how the spatial web technology can apply to their day-to-day operations and what that means. And then when they're comfortable, when they're happy, then we go out in full marketing and they say, that they worked with MetaMinds. Now, this isn't something that we control, and it's not something that we take ownership of. Our role here is to deliver to the client and to work with them on this journey. So rather than see us as a company that is putting out platforms and onboarding people, for now, we work in the fact that we deliver to these clients. So I hope this answers everyone's question. There's another question that I saw, which is, are we going to integrate with other blockchains? Obviously, we are integrated with Zilliqa, and this is going to be the chain of choice for us and everything that we do in the future. Now, to be very clear, blockchain and metaverse do not go hand in hand. Sometimes we can put out white label solutions that do not require blockchain layer, but whenever a layer is required, then obviously it's going to be the Zilliqa layer.
Yeah, I think just on that as well, probably a different AMA, but in terms of Zilliqa 2, if somebody's asked a question there, no, we're not relying on being on Zilliqa 2.0 to deliver this. There's also capability regarding that which will allow us to extend into other chains based on bridges. So if we're thinking about is liquidity opportunities on ETH or Polygon or somewhere else, clearly we're kind of going to be able to tap into that capability. So I think we're covered there around the kind of the multi-chain question. I think some other questions that have come in around it's not going to be great if we're only on LinkedIn. I think just in terms of the kind of the approach that we're taking, we're clearly targeting brands who've got a presence on LinkedIn. So from a conversion perspective, being on LinkedIn and talking to that audience helps. And then hopefully as we win those projects moving forwards, by virtue of the fact they'll be promoting on X or Twitter or whatever we're calling it these days, we'll start to get the awareness with that, which I think is important.
Yeah. I'm still seeing people saying, when is MetaMinds going to be launched? We are a full operational company out from the UAE. So we already are a full functioning team, and we already have clients. So to answer your question, we are already a functional company. The only difference is, and again, I want to make this point, is we are not an open world. We're not a Decentraland. We're not a sandbox. We're not a Roblox. We deliver a product to the client, and we are building the the OS system that's required for the metaverse, meaning that when we do have a product that we're going to launch for the community, we will let you know beforehand, and it is coming. But for now, we're a full operational company out from the GCC in the UAE with a team behind it, and we are giving our consultancy services and producing white label solutions to clients. So I hope that kind of cleaned it up for everyone.
I think we've probably got 5 more minutes. Going to run over a little bit just to try and get a few more questions, cover that off. There's one here. It's probably worth trying to answer. We've maybe not been clear enough around it. So Sandra, how does MetaMinds in any way relate to Zilliqa? This feels like a separate company to Zilliqa Group and not the blockchain token itself. So maybe just hone in on this one a little bit more, or Max, in terms of just answering this question to help the audience.
Yeah, I mean, I guess here Max and I can both have a chat on it as well. I think this whole comes down to the structure of Zilliqa Group. while Zilliqa Group is the parent company and we're an entity that's part of it, we are our own company that operates focusing on the metaverse and the spatial web. How are we a part of Zilliqa? I mean, it's very simple, and this is part of why we restructured the Zilliqa Group for it to have a CEO office, meaning that when me, Matt, Richard, and Max and everyone from Zilliqa and that kind of seniority level get together, we set the strategy and the vision forward from how we want Zilliqa Group to function and operate and what it means for us as entities within that group. And then we all work together on achieving that. So this is how we're a part of it. At the end of the day, Zilliqa is... Max, sorry, did you want to say something?
No, Karen.
Yeah, I think that's a good answer. Just laughing at the one said Zilliqa is dead. We're definitely not dead.
I don't think we're dead. I think we've got some pretty good CPR and we're ready to bolt out of here. So we're definitely not dead.
I think there was a good question that was asked in around kind of MetaMind, what's the currency, what we're building. So I think just from our perspective, if you look at the likes of, I don't know, Mad Lions is a great example. They've recently launched a loyalty program, which is really about driving kind of engagement to their fans. Obviously, longer term, that's going to obviously build out into a metaverse spatial web experience. So with them potentially having a currency or a ROR or a token around that, that could then potentially use to drive their metaverse experience. So I think there's some exciting things going to happen there. What other ones should we look to answer off, Sandra? I think.
I mean, I just feel that what's important today is that whoever's watching kind of really understands that there is a difference, again, between the open worlds that are out there as metaverses and what we are doing, and how this whole transition from what Zilliqa Group has become and the role that we play, how they come together and how they form. You know, obviously, this isn't going to be an overnight transition. This is going to be something that moves in parallel with multiple other changes that are happening. And I'm trying to read some of the questions, to be honest, but
I think some people are asking, can we range up from example Web3 War? So some people on the channel are loving it, some people not so much, doing brilliantly. If you've got an ambition to kind of move across, I guess, digital assets from a game into a metaverse, that clearly is an ambition for what we've got. We've got an experience layer. These are the sorts of capabilities that we could deliver against if a brand required it. So yes, I think we're in a strong position there to answer that.
This is the beauty of what we've done, though, and this is what people need to understand, is that the fact that now we have a Zilliqa Group and we have this CEO office, it means that we can all work together to make sure that every entity within Zilliqa is interoperable with one another, and we can actually move things across and work together. You know, I saw Mark. Hey, Mark, how are you? Will there be any on-ramp? We do have a KYC solution in place, actually. KYC is a pretty important factor of the safety and security that we're doing and rolling out, especially from MetaMind's perspective. There will be an on-ramp solution for sure, probably not the solution itself, but on-ramps will be available. Mark, let's probably connect off StreamYard and have a chat on what you have in mind. I've seen that you have made some, you know, comments before or announcements that you're looking at certain things within the space. So it'll be good for us to reconnect.
And I think just to answer one of the questions around accessing it, I think if a brand works with MetaMinds, they've got an activation, you're part of that brand's community, you want to be part of that community, of course, you'll get access to it. I guess it just depends on what the use case is and how they decide how they want that activation to happen. So it's definitely...
Sorry, Matt. No, I just want to, because I've seen this answer many times. Okay, so as part of the OS that we're putting out, right, there's a mass layer, there's going to be a social layer, there's going to be a creator layer, and there's going to be a metaverse-focused wallet layer. So we're working on multiple things, as I said, and right now our focus is on onboarding mass clients. It would be open for others in the industry. So I don't know where I got cut, but I hope people got what I'm saying. So we're tapping into the key factors of the spatial web, which is the creators, the curators, the users, the communities, and the brands.
Yeah. I think there's one good question here, Max, and maybe wrap up last two questions. Gabriel Shaw has said, crypto degans won't understand Zilliqa commercializing, sorry, let me let me see this. Crypto Deegans won't understand Zilliqa becoming a commercialized company with real world clients. The group structuring it is a brave and commendable move. Do you maybe just give a bit of insight around that, Max, around the challenge in the blockchain space about not being revenue generating and why our approach is slightly different?
Certainly. So I think that the industry has been through a lot of evolution over the last 8 years that I've been involved with it. And from the outset, my vision was certainly very different. We actually wanted to build infrastructure that in itself would allow new companies, new giants for Web 3.0 to be built upon, just as Web 1.0 and 2.0 allowed incredible companies to be born. And that was always the vision. And we haven't really, nothing has changed in terms of that vision, apart from the fact that watching what others are doing in the industry, which in itself is commendable, we've chosen a very different path, which is to build real revenue generating companies on top of what we believe is world-class infrastructure, and build a revenue generating and hopefully in the future a profitable commercial group. And I think that tipping point in our industry is a really important one. And yes, we may be very brave, we may be very foolish in terms of making this bold move, but it's only when the infrastructure and the application comes together, and everything else that has to go with it, that we start to actually make a real difference. And yes, this is a commercially driven venture. We're working with customers right now who are driven by commercial interest, not by inveterate experimentation. And so I hope that's very clear. Well, one other thing I would just add and make super clear to anybody that's listening is that the vision has always been about creating companies built on Zilliqa that would cooperate with each other and work together to provide joined up solutions to brands and customers. And that's what we've created. We have, in-house ventures such as MetaMinds and Web2War and Rolling Thunders and others to come. But they will all work together and join up in such a way to provide new immersive experiences to customers and their own customers. So yeah.
Matt, do you mind if I just answer very quickly one question?
By all means.
All right, great. It was why have KYC, because it's an invasion of privacy. I believe Drew asked it. Drew, when you look at the metaverse space, right, again, because we're not an open world, we need to look into things such as harassment, grooming, bullying. Certain industries that we're working with across government entities and banking require certain levels of KYC. Now, at the end of the day, it really depends on the use cases and the functionalities. And sorry, I just saw a comment that made me laugh.
I saw that as well.
Yeah, thank you, thanks. So the trip to Korea really helped. It's just got some work done. Thanks for noticing. Anyways, the point is that when it comes to the KYC, right, we do need it for a layer of protection that other platforms don't really give. At the end of the day, as a user, you have your opportunity to go use any other world that you want, but for us, KYC is crucial because this is what the future is going to need when it comes to regulations and how people are going to be interacting with one another. Very easily, I can give you an example, which is right here. There is a little layer of KYC, which is that you kind of log in from your LinkedIn or your YouTube, and already you can see some of the comments coming out. Now imagine millions of people or thousands of people in a metaverse environment where there are kids, there are mature adults. We need to be able to protect and have certain standards that we follow for our clients and for our platform.
Somebody wants to marry you, Sandra, so you can go back KYC and work out who that is. So that's one upside. I think
on my jawline, thanks.
As we kind of look to kind of wrap this up, I guess one of the points is, and it's what's a good thing is there's a lot of questions across a lot of diverse products. And I think, as Max said, it's the beauty of how do we link everything that we've got in our ecosystem together to deliver a solution that customers want, essentially, or people want. And I think that is the beauty of having a public layer one, where people can build whatever they want, and then having entities or ventures building out revenue-focused businesses that deliver an outcome. So that's really exciting. And as I say, there's been so many announcements the past 6 weeks across Zilliqa Group. MetaMinds, I'm sure, are going to have some coming up quite soon. I think next week we're going to have a money market protocol coming online. We've had liquid staking, we've had gaming, we've had Mad Lions doing loyalty. I think if anyone was to say that Zilliqa is dead, I definitely think they need to come and have a look again. So I think as we kind of look to wrap this up, I think thank you very much, Max, Sandra, for giving the time to come on board. To everyone that has listened in, appreciate the questions. Hopefully we've given the clarity, and if we haven't, we'll come back and try and answer some of those questions. And I think for everything else, just keep an eye on the Zilliqa Group handles, whether that's Twitter, TikTok, LinkedIn, depending on what your interests are, and we will look to update you there. But from us, thanks very much. Sandra, Max, you want to say anything before we end the session?
I just wanted to say thank you to all the professional people out there that are following us and that are being constructive in their criticism, but also commending us for what we're doing. Those are the sorts of people that we hope to please in the coming months and years.
Sandra, do you want to close it out?
Yeah, I mean, just exactly what Max said. I mean, at the end of the day, our core focus has been and will always be to grow Zilliqa and Zilliqa Group for the community and what it means for our position in the market. And, I did see one person say, why would this excite them if they're a member of Zilliqa? And again, there are definitely ways that we're looking at bringing the community into the metaverse. And like I said, this is all part of the roadmap. But other than that, I guess I'd say to who was interested in my strong features, I'll drop my gua sha treatment for you soon, and I'll share it. So keep an eye out for sure.
Some of the comments are brilliant. Sandra broke the internet in Dubai. Too much heat coming from her. Absolutely love it. And yes, Zain, we'll try and get your questions answered. Some of them clearly we're probably not in a position to, but 99% of them we'll get across. So everyone, have a good weekend. Thanks very much for everything, and long Zil. Thank you.
Thank you.